So hi, my name is Jessica Bolanos. I am class of 2013 and I'm the co-founder of Goodspero. So Goodspero is a creative agency and we work with mainly social impact organizations or for-profits as well, not necessarily just nonprofits, as long as they are invested in the community and dedicated to social impact in some way. That's pretty much our niche. So we pretty much, a lot of people think we're videographers, photographers, social media managers. We do all that stuff, but we are a creative agency, so we do a whole broad range of things in storytelling, and that's just, some of the ways that we do provide those services. Goodspero was born out of the Wolff Center. When I applied to the program, I actually had a different business. It was similar, but it was not focused on our values. We just started the business before Wolff, didn't know how to run a business. It was like a media agency, but we were doing a lot of things for any businesses really that came along. And then about 2 weeks or into Wolff, everything changed. Monty Pendleton came in and talked to us about our personal purpose, and we spent a lot of time, ranking our values. And so once we did that whole process, I did it with my husband, who is also my business partner. We just kind of put all our values together and then decided we needed to start a whole new business. So we literally closed the other business down and started from scratch and launched Goodspero out of WCE. So in the beginning, we launched a couple of crowdfunds. And so they were to bring educational resources and books to children in Colombia and El Salvador, and like remote places where they didn't really have access to books, like tops of mountains or remote islands. And so we were doing crowdfunds for social impact, and that's when a lot of nonprofits in Houston kind of started seeing what we were doing, because we were hosting a lot of workshops for free for the community, both to teach them how to crowdfund for social impact, but also just for entrepreneurs to teach them how to crowdfund as well. This was like when crowdfunding was just starting. Nobody really knew like what Kickstarter was or Indiegogo. So we were just hosting these workshops for free, and organizations started asking us to teach them how to crowdfund. And then to teach them how to crowdfund, we realized they need to know how to do social media, which a lot of them didn't at the time. This was like when people were barely starting to use social media for business. So we started teaching organizations how to do that. And then we also realized they needed actual content, and we knew how to do that as well. So we started also capturing content in the form of video and photos. And another piece of it was that we continued teaching. So we don't just do this stuff for people. We do storytell for them, but we also teach them the tools and everything they need to do it themselves. So they're not really necessarily, dependent on us all the time, which is kind of different from most companies. But we like to empower others, and so we still teach to this day. That's like a big part of our model. Whether they ask for it or not, we're just teaching them all the time. So people do come to us for workshops and specifically to teach their teams how to do that. But so that's kind of how we started. And here we are to this day, still doing the same. Wolff helped us in all kinds of ways to launch Goodspero, starting from the idea. Even like the students, my classmates would help each other with our businesses, because back then we didn't have IP teams. Most of us, if not all of us, were working on our own businesses. So like our homework and everything was about our own businesses, unless you were on like a business plan team. We did have business plan teams, but it was an option. I wasn't on a business plan team. I wanted to work on Goodspero, which at the time it was called the Good Crowdfund. We scrapped that name. So that was another thing they helped us with. Dave and my mentor, they helped us go through this whole process of how to pick a name. We made on the whiteboard a list of a bunch of words that resonated with our values and who we are and what we do, and then we scratched them all, smashed them together, and ended up with Goodspero because obviously good, we were wanting to do social good in the world, and Spero is actually Latin for hope. So we had smashed those two words together, and came up with that name. So, but obviously they taught us everything we needed in the Wolff Center to launch our business. So they helped us with market validation, projections, everything that we needed, even though at the time I thought we were going to be a nonprofit. And everybody would tell us not to be a nonprofit. And I didn't listen because I didn't think, I thought these are nonprofit professionals. I'm not going to listen to them. At the time, there wasn't really like a social good roundtable or anything like that. So it wasn't until after I graduated when I had our nonprofit mentor tell me the same thing. She said, don't start a nonprofit. If you want to do good, just partner with nonprofits that are already doing the good work, because there's so many out there and so many people have nonprofits. You're better off just, using your skills to work with those people instead, or else you're going to be spending a lot of time, kind of just doing paperwork and a lot of government like regulation things that you need to do just to be a nonprofit. And so that's what we did. But Dave was like a huge help. He helped us price everything. We didn't know like how to price anything at the time, especially right out of college. And then he also helped us draft up our first huge contract, which, that's pretty much when we launched, like right after I graduated. So, and they still help us to this day, like the whole family, faculty, mentors, students, everybody. Serving was like my highest value whenever we looked at our values in the program. That was at the top of my list, serving. And actually, when I was a student, financial was at the bottom of my list, which was interesting, different from most people in the program. I got a lot of like, why are you in the business school? Why aren't you in the nonprofit school? But yeah, I just needed to know how to run a business, because it's running a social impact business is the same as running a for-profit business. The only difference is, your funds and your effort go towards social impact instead of to, funding giving the profits back to your investors. So I would say service is one of our high values, and social impact in the areas of now it's basically women and underrepresented communities, education, so educating others is one of our big values as well, which I talked about. We still do educate not only clients but communities, whether we're getting paid or not, which that's one of the things that makes you really know that you're doing the right thing. If you do something and you don't even care if you're getting paid for it, you're on the right track. So that's definitely one of our highest values, just educating others, because education has such a huge impact on us in our life, especially like being in Wolff changes literally your whole life. So we like to provide people with those kinds of opportunities as well. I did hear a lot, even from people in the Wolff Center, that I should not start the business with my significant other, and I didn't listen at all. I feel like they gave that advice from their own experiences, maybe that weren't so great, but my experiences has been different. So my partner is completely different than me, and you often do hear, even in Wolff, that you should partner with somebody that has different skills than you, so that you can complement each other. And that's pretty much what I feel like in my partnership. So Nelson is super intelligent. Not that I'm not, but he is, more the futurist than I am. He's looking to the future at all times. He's the technical one. I'm the more creative eye, but I wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff without him, because I can shoot and I can film, but I don't know how to do anything technical. So he pretty much sets the stage for us and does all that. He doesn't like to write. I love to write, so I'm the one writing scripts and copy. What else? He not only just directly related to the business, but other things in life. He's more of an outdoors person. He likes to go out in nature, ride a bike and stuff like that. I don't ever leave my seat. Like, I'm glued to my laptop, but I know that's not good for me. And so he has helped me, get out of the house. We had started doing nature walks, doing meetings, walking meetings, instead of sitting down meetings in front of the computer, which also helps with, your creativity and just getting ideas flowing. So that's changed us a little bit, and obviously getting more physical activity in my life has helped, even with work as well. What else? I mean, it is also challenging, of course, because we are so different, but it helps us, get the best out of our work. So we may disagree on something, on the strategy or the way to go with a certain client or a certain project, and so we don't fight about it, but we do have to butt heads sometimes and push for what the best thing is. And usually it's a mix of both of our ideas, and it comes out better than it would have if it was just me by myself, or not having somebody else to bounce ideas off of. So I think it's been great, actually, to have a business partner, and definitely more productive on my end. But again, it depends on the business partner that you choose, because yes, I have seen bad stories out there where that didn't happen, and one person's pulling all the weight, the other person's not even entrepreneurial. So one person's working 24 hours a day pretty much because they love it, like me, and then somebody might be working 9 to 5 because they just have that mentality, and that doesn't really work out if you're not understanding. And sometimes it does. I don't know. It just depends on your role and how y'all work things out. Yeah, we were a couple in the Wolff Center already. So we met at work though. So Nelson worked at Univision for 10 years. He was creative production director there on the radio side. But also radio back then, it was just getting to digital. So he was kind of doing a lot of video stuff also, and the TV was on the floor above him, so they kind of would work together. And so I met him through there. I didn't work for Univision because I've been pretty much an entrepreneur my whole life, so I was doing work with Univision at the time. So I would go in, independent contractor or independently working. I was doing the morning show at the time, and sometimes reading traffic or going to the different remotes out around Houston. And we ended up being hooked up by our friends, and they pretended like they needed somebody to voice commercials, and so I went in there to voice some commercials. So we really started working together first, and then it kind of developed into a relationship after I saw he also likes to work until 2 a.m. on projects. I had never met a guy like that, so I was like, all right, this could work. And so we did start the business. He was the one, I used to be in front of the camera, and he was the one who bought me my first camera, and that's when I got behind the camera. And I really did not go back after that, because I realized I make way more money and I get way more respect being on this other side of the camera than whenever I was the talent or a model or whatever, or an extra. So that kind of changed everything there, and we started our first business, which was Evident Empire Media. And we had another business as well that we had started, TTMR Studios, which was recording musical artists in a music recording studio in A-Leaf. And so it kind of was more like business, and then the relationship formed, always being together and working together. And so Nelson likes to say, if we could make a marriage or make a business work, then we can make a marriage work. And so I actually got married while I was in the program at Wolff Center, so in my junior year. So my whole wedding was pretty much my whole class. And Dave married us. So Viviana, the program director, she was she helped coordinate everything, because I didn't even have a wedding coordinator or anything. So I'm really thankful for both of them, like everybody really. Sasha, which she was in my class, she was my photographer, like literally the whole class was, our wedding, which was also the launch of our business, Goodspero. So we didn't want a regular wedding and we didn't want presents. We just asked everybody, like, instead of all that, just either bring a book that we could, for the project, or help us out with the crowdfund, which was really to launch Goodspero, its first project in Colombia. And that's what we pretty much did. So instead of the honeymoon, we pretty much took all the funds and the books and we went and launched Goodspero and did that first project. My favorite memories from my time in the Wolff Center definitely is just talking to all the students that were in my class about their businesses, and like we would help each other, whether we're launching, while we're students, because a lot of us did launch multiple businesses while we were in class, like while we were in Wolff. But just, I have a lot of memories of us just like walking to a restaurant and like sitting there hashing out our business ideas and like what wouldn't work and what would work, or they would give me connections and I do the same. So a lot of that was my favorite memories from Wolff, and also lunch and learns, hearing from all the different speakers. I love that. I mean, we also, people that would come to speak to us during classes as well, but lunch and learns were amazing because as a student, I was really broke at the time, and I not only got to eat, but I also got to be very productive and learn while I'm eating. I was like in heaven, so I love that. And then I can't forget also to mention our trip to see Warren Buffett. So I know that doesn't happen anymore because, maybe his condition and everything, but so that was really memorable, getting to go and visit him at Berkshire Hathaway and ask him questions. And then we went to lunch afterwards at his favorite restaurant. So that was pretty cool to get to go and do that with Melvin as well when he was still here with us. The most pivotal part of our journey as an entrepreneur, I keep saying we because my partner Nelson, we do everything together, and he's really helped me in the business, of course, a lot. So the most pivotal part of our journey has definitely been focusing on our values and only working with people that share those same values. I mentioned before that we had a business before this where we just worked with anybody, and we had a lot of bad experiences. But that was the main reason, because once we started working with people whose values aligned with ours, everything changed. We enjoyed our work way more. The work that we were doing, the impact we were having, it's just been really different since we focused on just our values, really. So the one person that comes to mind that really had a lot of impact on us, especially like right out of the program, was Angela Blanchard. She is the former president and CEO of Neighborhood Centers. At the time it was called Neighborhood Centers. Now it's called Baker Ripley. So you asked who, if anybody, has changed my life or changed our lives. Yeah, she literally did. She was our first client after graduating from the Wolff Center, Baker Ripley. And it's still one of the largest contracts that we've had to date, and it lasted many years. We worked with them even through the pandemic. So even after she retired from Baker Ripley, she didn't retire from all the good work she's doing, but yeah, she changed a lot. So she was the one that I mentioned earlier, and about telling me not to start a nonprofit and work with others. She was the one that told us that, and I did trust her because she had so much experience in the nonprofit field. She also was the one who changed my mindset about pricing. So I did mention Dave helped us with pricing and everything, but Angela helped us change our mentality from, working all the time for many people. And she said basically that we needed to get used to working less for a lot more. And so that's what we ended up doing now. So we do a lot more quality work when we're able to work with less people, get more in depth into the work. And yes, of course, that translates to getting paid more for the work. we're creating a lot more value for the people that we work for now. So that was one of the big things. She was also the one to straight up tell me that many people in the nonprofit field, this is funny, would tell us, you're too cheap. Like, your prices are really cheap compared to everybody else. You need to raise your prices. And people would tell us, like, they would work with us and then become friends and then tell us this a little bit later. So Angela was one of those people, but she gave me specifics. Nobody else gave me specifics. So how was I supposed to know, like, how cheap I was, you know? It wasn't until she told me, you know, at the time, this was 10 years ago. Okay, so prices are different now. But at the time, when we graduated, I believe we were charging about maybe $1,000 or $1,500 for a video. 2-3 minute video. And she told us that before us, there was these guys flying down from New York to do their videos for $10,000 per minute. And they were making 15-minute long stories. And that blew my mind and changed everything, because I didn't really even get close to thinking like I could charge that much for telling a story on video. But yeah, that was naive, early me. And now 10 years later, like I still even remember that day. We were in Berlin when she told us that. She had taken us to a project to film it was a refugee conference, a worldwide global refugee conference that we went and captured stories with her. But yeah, I remember she took us there and told me that during lunch one day, like, nonchalant. So yeah, that's just a couple stories. She's also taught me a lot more stuff, but those are a couple of the two main ones that stick out. So thank you, Angela, for changing my life. We miss you. Okay, I'm not gonna say any names, but I did think of something. The most challenging project I worked on, I would say, was with a client that definitely had different values than I did, and I didn't really know that going into it. And that was a big lesson learned, because we did a 1-year contract with this client, and this is something that we are way more careful about now. I do not enter 1-year contracts with people that I do not know unless I am referred to them by people I trust, because it was a year of hell working with somebody who was not value aligned. They literally wanted us to do things that we did not want to do, but we were stuck in this contract. And so we just stuck it out, because we want to stick to our word. We're not going to break the contract. So it was just hell trying to do all of the things that we didn't want to do, or for the wrong reasons, like winning awards, or, I'm not in this to win an award. I'm in this to have an impact, which I thought that they were trying to do, because on the surface level, if you look at somebody's marketing, it's just that, like, they want to seem like they're doing good work, and they put it out there, and they like taking pictures with the checks and like all that stuff. But no, when you go behind the scenes and get to work with somebody and you see what's really going on, and they don't really they weren't actually helping people. They were only doing it when the cameras were around, or just for show, pretty much, and then taking all the credit in public. And it was just horrible. So yeah, that was probably the most challenging project and client and lesson I've learned. My favorite project to work on has definitely been lately with Stacy Latoyson, the founder of Dream Big Ventures, because she too has now changed my perspective on everything, which I mentioned earlier about not just being a founder, but also a funder. And I knew the statistics. I had seen those statistics before about how women and diverse founders only get 1% to 2% of funding. But that was it. I never really thought too much about it. I was just like, okay, another one of those sad things that's just reality. But yeah, I didn't really think of myself as being able to be an investor until we started telling the stories of her and the people that she's learning from, and they have the same stories as us almost. Like, they weren't investors, they were doing other things, they had regular jobs, or maybe they were founders of a tech company. Like, all these investors that I'm hearing now, especially in the Latino community, they have similar stories like that. And I just thought, well, I can't do that until I have a lot of money. I was all wrong. And so, like, hearing her and hearing her partners tell all these stories over and over lately has really ingrained in me that I want to do that too. I also want to help change, and I don't want to just sit here and think like, oh well, that sucks. I want to change the statistics as well. So yes, I have been helping everybody. Like, that's one of my biggest values. So now that I have this different mentality and know that I can also do that with money, and that used to be my lowest value, now it's way up there. Not because I want to be some rich, wealthy person, just that I want to have that impact, not just with my time and storytelling and talents and everything else I'm already doing, mentorship, but also financially. I want to be able to invest in other women and other founders and diverse-led startups as well, just like they are. And they're showing me how to do that, the way they're mentoring each other and like doing deals together. That's pretty much something that I've been learning. Like, you don't need to be the one that puts in a lot of money. They pool their money together. They form, like, it's just like the angel networks, except for you have access to them. Because I know in most firms you need to be an accredited investor. So that means you have to have at least $100,000 as an individual, be making that much a year or more. Sometimes they, have $1 million minimum. Like, those things were what I'd heard before, and I thought, okay, well, that's not gonna happen anytime soon. So once I get there, then maybe I'll be an investor. But for now, I'm just here, right? But no, I'm like, and by the way, I'm like, other people in the program that are at that place where they are making $1 million or more a year, now I'm seeing that, like, okay, I'm almost there too. Really, I could do that tomorrow. In the program, they told us the same thing. When they asked us all early on, like, how much do you want to make upon graduating? I remember writing down $100,000, and then they looked at it, one of the mentors looked at it, and literally was like, y'all can think bigger. There's no limits. That could be $1 million. Like, you could, put $1 million, and really that's your choice. And it is my choice. It was my choice whether I go and look for a $100,000 client or if I look for $1 million client, and that's literally the only difference. So that whole mentality, similar to what I'm learning now with Dream Big Ventures and all our partners. So now I'm like, yeah, it's the same kind of mentality. I don't have to wait for something way down the line. I just need to find the right partners and the right people to be around. I've been a mentor in all kinds of ways in WCE. A lot of alumni, especially right after they graduate, I've heard this a lot, where they don't think they're good enough. I had the same mentality. Like, right after I graduated, I didn't think that I could be good enough to be a mentor, because I don't know, I just felt like I would see all the other mentors. They're mostly, a lot of them are older. There's some young mentors too, alumni and everything, but I just thought, I don't want to take away the opportunity. This is what I thought. It was wrong, but I didn't want to take away an opportunity for somebody to get a better mentor, more experienced than I am or whatever, but that's totally not a great way to think about it. My partner, Nelson, he actually was a mentor first, so he became a mentor after I graduated. And then after that, like, seeing him mentor students made me want to mentor, and made me feel like, I could have done this all along. I went through the program. I know what I'm talking about too. So now I encourage other alumni who I hear say the same thing. They tell me like, oh, I want to be a mentor, but maybe in a few years when I have a little more experience. I think that it's great to be a mentor and an alumni, because you do have that experience in the program, and the way that they pair you up is like perfect, because I've been and I'm specifically talking about personal mentors. They've paired me up with mentees that, They're not looking for the mentor that can take them out on the yacht. I'm not that one, I'm not that person. But he'll pair me up with somebody that wants to go and start a business in a creative field or social media or, something that I do know a lot about. Or if I have connections with certain businesses that they want to work for, so there's like a lot of different ways that you could be a personal mentor. So that's one. And then also of course, workshops. I would like teach as well. It's another form of mentoring, supporting businesses that launch businesses. I've gone even to other countries to help film the stories of entrepreneurs that were in the program or that are students in the program, and just to tell their stories and help amplify their messages. So yeah, I really enjoy supporting the way I was supported in WCE. My plans for the future of my entrepreneurial journey, there's probably two main ones right now. One is getting more into creating longer form content, docu-series type things for streaming platforms. So to date, we've been doing a lot of content creation and storytelling for TV and digital platforms. And now I really want to get into sharing those same types of messages, these social impact messages, but on a way bigger scale. So I'm thinking like Netflix and Hulu, Disney Plus, platforms like that. We've had friends also now have shows on Netflix too. And so I've, seen how to do it. I have the connections to do it. Now it's just learning how to do those kind of business plans, because they're a little bit different than what we learned in Wolff for a different kind of business. This is like film entertainment industry, and it's a little different, but that's where I'm headed right now. So I've been taking steps to do that, learning script writing, but specifically for, real stories. So docu-series, like I said. I found out that back in the day, you would have a pilot and you put it on TV, and if it did well, they would give you a season maybe. And if the season did well, maybe you get another season. And now it's not like that. Now we have all this technology and algorithms that can kind of tell streaming platforms if you're going to do well. So they actually like to buy a full season or maybe 2 seasons. And then, if the algorithm says it will do good, they put the whole 1 or 2 seasons out there. And then they'll continue if it does well. But they needed to see that long-term impact. So that's kind of where we're headed, to create, a full season at least to pitch to docu-series platforms, streaming platforms. The other thing that is kind of a big deal to me right now, we've been working with a lot of venture capital firms and funds, specifically the Soft Tech Venture Studio and Dream Big Ventures have pretty much changed my way of thinking on a lot of things. And I keep hearing that we should not only be founders, but we should also be funders, especially women and underrepresented groups, because we only receive 2% of venture capital funding. And there's only about 1% to 2% of us that are venture capitalists. So it makes sense that we're not getting those funds. People tend to fund people that they can relate to and they understand. And so a lot of our businesses, they just don't get it, or they just don't relate to the founders maybe. So yeah, I'm headed towards that path where we've been telling the stories of these, venture capital firms and accelerators and different things in that space. And I'm wanting to get more involved as an investor as well, so that I can, change those statistics too, like our people that we're working with. The most important skill that I think someone in the creative industry can have right now, I have AI in mind, but I don't want to make this, a stale conversation or a trending conversation. But in general, we have always been looking to the newest tech. So even when we started, I mentioned crowdfunding, and not really many people knew how to crowdfund back then. So it really helped us to stay on top of the newest technologies and the latest things that were happening, being on the forefront of everything. It is difficult sometimes because since people don't know so much about it, you end up educating people a lot on what it is and how to do it before they're even convinced that they need this. But you know, it puts you in a different light. People see you as somebody that's looking to the future and they want to keep up too. So it's been very helpful in the creative field, especially, to keep up with all the tools. Right now it is AI, so we've been incorporating a lot of AI tools in our workflows at Goodspero, whether it's ChatGPT for copy or Descript for video editing, or noise reducers for audio productions. There's a lot of different tools. We have partners that also use a lot of amazing tools to create, you know, visuals, and you know, it's amazing. That's what's going on right now. So I would definitely say that would be one of the most important skills right now. But like long term, just keeping up with all the different kinds of technology and all the innovation that's happening in your industry, really in any industry. I do see, so there's people in our industry and across industries really that are afraid of AI. And so I hear and read a lot of people, you know, concerned about losing their jobs, or, you know, like, you know, copywriters or video editors, or, you know, even our whole entire field could be, technically, we could be scared about it. But really, I don't think it's going to make you lose your job unless you're not keeping up with those tools and you're not wanting to use them, because it's kind of inevitable. Everybody's going to start using them. They're going to get even more powerful than they are now. So as long as you're incorporating those tools into your workflows and learning with the AI, I mean, I think you'll be okay. You'll actually be, like I mentioned earlier, on the forefront of your industry if you do use those tools. So I mean, maybe it will replace jobs, but I think more for the people that aren't willing to learn how to use the tools, and they will fall behind because it's going to take them a whole lot longer to do something without those tools than somebody that is using those tools. And right now it's not as advanced as it will be in even like maybe a year or two, but it's still doing a pretty good job of like replacing a lot of different things that used to take a long time. So just for our case, drafting copy, scripts or social media posts used to take us a long time, because we don't just post one thing and share it across platforms. We like to talk to specific audiences. So there's a different audience on LinkedIn. They're more professional. They tend to be older. There are younger people on there too, but versus like TikTok or Instagram, it's definitely a younger audience. So we don't even write copy for the same for one platform and spread it everywhere. So just that in itself, that used to take us hours for one post to do different copy for multi-platform use. And now it's just us telling chat, hey, can you rewrite this for an Instagram audience from this age to this age, and use relevant emojis, use relevant hashtags, SEO optimized for this platform. So I mean, it just cuts down so much time. So I think, yeah, I don't know what more I can say about AI, but I definitely encourage everyone to get familiar and start using them. That's a good one. Let me look. Yeah, there's one downstairs. But I guess it depends on what you want to do. So I didn't used to read this much. That was another thing that Wolff did to me. There was a speaker, I think the first speaker that ever came to talk to us, Dr. John D. Martini. He kind of changed my whole mentality of reading, and I didn't even know he was doing it. It's just that I asked him a question about, launching our business and social impact, and he recommended this book, Leaving Microsoft to Change the World by John Wood. And it was literally about a guy that left Microsoft, who was an executive at Microsoft, to start Room to Read, which is, about getting books to kids in developing countries, which is similar to what our original idea was. But the whole point was that it used to take me a long time to read. And it wasn't that I didn't like reading, but I really learned when I read that book. I read it in 2 sittings really fast, like 4 hours. And after that, I realized it was just I was reading the wrong things. It wasn't that I was not enjoying reading. And now, like, all I read is nonfiction, business-related or social impact-related books. And I read them super fast, and that changed like everything. So I would recommend reading, whatever you're really interested in, especially as entrepreneurs, like your focus area. So for me, that was the one that kicked everything off. But obviously we're not a nonprofit anymore, and so I'm in a different stage in my life. So right now I'm reading, so Stacy Latoyson from Dream Big Ventures recommended Alpha Girls, which is about the women in Silicon Valley that were in a male-dominated industry and, beat the odds, became successful, and have now also started becoming venture capitalists to change those statistics that I was talking about earlier, where we only see 2% of funding. So that one I highly recommend. I haven't even finished reading that one, but it's already really good. I'm like 1/4 of the way in. And then what other ones? So this is not really it's more like a workbook. So this is the Monty's Personal Purpose that this was not available whenever I was in the program. But this is basically what, we went through to find all our values and changed our whole life, not just our business, but our whole life. So now he actually published the book, and so I would definitely recommend getting this. It's like a workbook that you can fill out. It does take quite a while if you're really diving deep. But that one, what else? I'm gonna look over here, and the Lean Startup, that was obvious. I think everybody talks about. This one. So Social Physics, How Good Ideas Spread, The Lessons from a New Science by Alex Pentland. So I got this one thinking about social media and social networks, but it's way beyond that. It applies to everybody and on all businesses and just life in general. So this was really good. I definitely recommend that one. I could probably go on forever, but maybe I'll just give y'all pictures of all these books that are on my shelves because they're everywhere. Okay, to students that are in the program or interested in entrepreneurship, I always recommend to just go for it. I know a lot of people that recommend going and working for a big company first to get some experience, learning on somebody else's dime and time. But I think the best way to learn is to just do it yourself and to just go ahead and launch your business. And there's never a perfect time anyway. So especially just my experiences as a woman and a woman of color, I had very bad experiences working with all kinds of companies in all different industries. And I used to think maybe it's just this company discriminating against me, or maybe it's just this industry, and I would just switch companies or switch industries. And it was pretty much always the same experience for me. I would get underestimated, definitely didn't get compensated the way I should have been. So I encourage everyone, not just women, but anyone, you can definitely pay yourself better. You can, make your own schedule, all of the great things. And yes, it is challenging, but it's also challenging to work in a corporation. It's not as safe as some people think. So you can get fired tomorrow, and versus if you have your own business, if you lose a client tomorrow, you can always go get another client. It's not, to me, it's safer to launch your own business and be in charge of your own life. So that's what I always encourage people to do. I push for everybody to start their own business and not even wait until you graduate. I mean, I launched Goodspero with my partner and husband while I was still a student in the program, and I didn't have any money either. So that's another thing that stops students a lot of times from launching a business. I mean, if you need money, you can pitch for it. We learn how to do that in the program. And in our case, like some businesses, you don't even need to pitch funding for. Like you don't need to dilute your equity or anything. So like our case, we're a service business, so we really just needed a camera, and we didn't have a lot of equipment when we first started, but that's more than most companies have. So whenever they're looking for somebody to do content creation, or they don't even know how to do social media, or so in our case, we didn't really need that much funding. We did do those crowd funds, but it wasn't about funding our company. It was more about funding the projects that we were doing for social impact. But I know everybody's business is different, but either way, I think you can definitely figure it out, and I encourage everybody to do it.